Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my review for Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Sorcery of Thorns is about a girl named Elizabeth who was an orphan and was raised in one of the great libraries. And in these libraries, the books are magical. So they all kind of have like their own little personalities and things like that. And then if you mistreat a book, it might become malefic, which basically becomes a monster that like attacks people. And depending on how strong the book is, it could be just like a weak monster, or it can become a very strong monster depending on what level of power the book has. I really loved all of the concepts and ideas of this book, but at times I got very frustrated with the execution of it. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. If you've seen my reviews before, then you know I've talked about 4 aspects of each story. I talk about character, plot, world building, and writing style. So first we're gonna start with character. The characters I think are the strongest aspect of this book because I loved the characters. I loved Elizabeth. She's such a strong female character without going over the top. I loved how active she was as a character, and I really loved how she was like different than your typical female character because she wasn't like overly pretty or anything like that, but she was like physically strong in a way that most female characters are not physically strong. And there were aspects to the world that made her the way that she was. And I really loved how her upbringing was really brought out in her character. So I really love that about her. There's 2 other really kind of main characters in here, Nathaniel and Silas, both of whom I really love. Silas particularly was one of my favorite characters that I've read in a really long time. I loved how ruthless he was and how like all of that kind of worked together with who he was, but at the same time he was also very humble and servient, and I love that about him. Out of all the characters who have humor, I feel like Silas's humor actually worked the best. I loved it when Silas was actually like kind of funny and stuff, so I love Silas. And then Nathaniel's the last character, and while he wasn't my favorite at the beginning, I did grow to love Nathaniel as well. Then we're going to talk about plot. The plot was very hit or miss for me because I liked the ideas of the plot, but I felt like the characters were making stupid decisions that they should have realized were stupid decisions before it happened. There were also times when the plot just didn't really fully make sense to me because what the characters were doing, there wasn't really a reason for them doing what they were doing, if that makes sense. So there were times when this plot felt very convenient to me, and then there were other times when I was just like super into the action and really enjoyed what was going on. So next we have world building, and I loved this world. I really loved everything about this world. I hated the way it was portrayed. I think at one point when I was talking about my vlogs, I mentioned that I was getting like Chamber of Secret vibes from this, and that's because it's about a library, right? So it's similar to like the Hogwarts library where Harry in Chamber of Secrets was like sneaking out at night to visit the restricted section and things like that. And then there was this like basilisk room looming in the background. So it had kind of like that spooky vibe to it, which I really liked that aspect of the world building. There was only like sections that had that aspect of the world building. And then there were other sections that I got a little bit more of an Ella Enchanted vibe. Not the book, but the movie vibe. Aspects of it that had that very magical, interesting side. It was also trying really hard to be modernized, and that like modernization of the world ruined the more spooky, atmospheric, magical side of the world for me, which really did hurt my enjoyment of this book. And last but not least, we have to talk about writing style. And I honestly think I did not like the writing style in this book. I think that's my main reason for giving it 3 stars and not a higher rating, because every other aspect of this book I actually really enjoyed. What really bothered me was the atmosphere of this book, because it had some deep emotional things that were going on. It would cut the more like spooky atmospheres and emotional atmospheres with humor, and the humor just didn't really work for me, and that just really hurt my enjoyment of this book. I feel like if it didn't have those sections of sarcasm and just like the dialogue, I think was the main thing there that really hurt me, because they would be talking about something that's really serious and then they would just like make a joke, and the joke wasn't even funny. and it just didn't work for me. So while I did really love this book and I love the concept of it, there were just parts of this book that really frustrated me. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. That being said, I do plan on continuing on with this series because I think it has a lot of potential and I do really want to see what happens next in this story. So that's all I have for you guys. Let me know if you've read this book down in the comments. I would love to discuss with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post frequently on this channel, so consider subscribing. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.